know, it's been painful. And so we started the foundation to make sure people never forget. And I've drawn so many parallels between the massacre and what happened to Terence. We're descendants. My great grandmother, Rebecca Brown Crutcher, was a teenager at the time and had to flee in fear of her life. They owned a barbecue joint, in Black Wall Street, and she never talked about it. I didn't know about it. I wish I would have sat at her feet. I didn't learn about Black Wall Street or the Tulsa race massacre until I went off to college, and people would ask, "Where are you from?" Tulsa, and they would say, "Black Wall Street, Tulsa race riot." I had to come home after the third time somebody told me that and asked Dad, "What is Black Wall Street?" And I went to school on Greenwood at Carver down the street. I went to the best high school, Booker T, and they did not teach us about what happened here in Oklahoma history. We learned about the Trail of Tears. I didn't even know that Black people were enslaved on the Trail of Tears. And so that history was erased from the history books. And just here recently, we've started amplifying the story. And my great grandmother whispered to my dad after Martin Luther King was assassinated and the riots broke out. She whispered something like that happened here. And that's when he found out. He had just got back from Vietnam. And he was like, "What?" And we started hearing more and more and more about it. And so I just felt like it was my duty to right the wrong and make sure that future generations know this story and know where they come from. I've partnered with Brian Stevenson and the Equal Justice Initiative out of Montgomery, Alabama. And we started the Tulsa Community Remembrance Project, where we went to every site that was documented in this sacred district to collect soil. We went to Dr. A.C. Jackson's home and we collected soil on the very site that he was killed with his hands in the air like my brother. We went down the street where Rosa Morris was killed and so many others. And now we have this display, and I'll show you, of soil. We gave them proper memorials, burials. We sung hymns. We read their obituaries because they were dumped in mass graves in the Arkansas River, left to be forgotten, and we had to right that wrong. And so when I think about the massacre and what happened to my great-grandmother's community, I can't help but think about what happened to Terence almost 100 years later in 2016. There was a mob of white police officers who charged at him. He had his hands in the air, and he was shot and tased simultaneously. There was a helicopter looming over him that said he looked like a bad dude from that far up in the air. They trampled over him like roadkill to go and check on her, didn't render first aid. And now they're telling us to get over it. They're telling us to get over it. Same thing happened with the massacre. Planes dropped bombs. They shot people with their hands in the air. There's been no reparations for my great-grandmother's community. There's been no reparations for me. History repeating itself. And so we decided that we would fight for justice. And so in this space, we talk about state-sanctioned violence, starting with the massacre, through the civil rights movement to our current day story right here, when we marched down Black Wall Street to City Hall with Attorney Benjamin Crump and Reverend Al Sharpton and my lead attorney, Demario Solomon Simmons, who's leading the historic lawsuit on reparations for the 3 last known living survivors. And so again, we're a national organization positioned locally because we've been everywhere. And right now, we are trying to preserve this story in Oklahoma, being that we have a governor that has passed a bill, a critical race theory bill, and we have a state superintendent of education who is trying to ban us from using the word diversity, equity, anything associated with Blackness. And so it is our duty to make sure we preserve our stories. And so that's why I'm fighting right now. I will be in DC next week. And the week after, we are urging and asking President Biden to sign an executive order to make this historic district a national monument. And so if we do that, that will be historic. It will be the first national monument in the state of Oklahoma. And it is because of Terence's blood. His blood has been a catalyst for change. It's been a force for good. And again, we haven't rested, we won't rest, but I'm learning that rest is a weapon. Rest is a weapon, and we're using it to keep this fight for justice and liberation going. So that is my story. And I'm grateful for the Black Wall Street Times, who's been able to document this story. Black media is so vitally important because we get to tell our stories our way. You know, Black media, they don't whitewash the stories. And so I'm thankful for Nehemiah Frank, the Black Wall Street Times. I'm thankful for Roland Martin. I'm thankful for Angela Rye. I'm thankful for Tiffany Cross and so many others rolling out. You know, I've been following you all, Munson Steve, for years, and I'm just grateful for Black media because it's important that we control our narrative. I made a decision that I wasn't going to let what the police officers in the helicopter said about Terence, that he looked like a bad dude. I made a decision that I would control my own narrative and I wouldn't let hate, racism, or bigotry. And so Tulsa, Oklahoma, we got a lot of work to do, but we've done some historic work. For the first time in 100 years, we get to prove our case for what happened here. For the first time, we get to go to court and fight for Black Creeks. And hopefully we will get to preserve this story through a national monument designated by President Joe Biden, his administration, because of the work we're doing here at the Terence Crutcher Foundation.